Hey, everybody, why are there a lot of photographers quitting? And I'm talking about photographers that have been in business for a few years, full time, some are part time, and even hobbyists. I mean, these are people not even in business. They're giving up their hobbies. What in the heck is going on? Are we ready for this? Let's do it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, this channel is dedicated to photography and photo art, and we try to give you a little bit of knowledge of the background of photography, some philosophies behind it, and also different Photoshop tips and techniques, and what it's like to be a creative artist who works hard at, say, getting out of their comfort zone and also just thinking creatively out of the box. If that appeals to you, if you could do me a favor, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and also hit that notification bell. That way when I upload a new video to YouTube, you'll get notified on that. Okay, with that out of the way, the topic today was brought up by me meeting up with a few photographers, and we're just discussing why are so many full-time photographers quitting, and also part-time photographers quitting, and also just hobbyists. It seems like there's almost like an epidemic of people that just enjoy photography as a hobby, and yet they are now quitting. And yet a lot of people think, well, I think there's too many photographers. Well, I never thought that, but there are a lot of people that are leaving and quitting, and there's various reasons. So I've actually experienced this with other photographers. I'm not going to mention names, but here's my theory and thoughts behind this. And it was an interesting discussion with a few other photographers. Number one, we just need to get certain things out of the way, and that there's things that are totally out of your control. So in other words, if you're a hobbyist, part-time business in photography, or full-time business in photography, something called life gets in the way. It may be a bad illness, personal problems. I mean, these things are out of our control, and that is one of the reasons why people will quit photography. And we don't want to talk about that because that's sort of obvious. There's more underlying reasons why others are leaving. The other thing is attributes to people leaving photography are people retiring. I mean, they've been doing this 25, 35 years, and they're in their 60s, and they just decided, I've been doing this long enough. It's time for me to relax and retire. And so a lot of people do that. I mean, when I take a look at me, I'm 18 years in photography and as a photo artist. And I've always been part-time, because the people that don't know me, or maybe you're new to the channel, I lived on the road for almost 20 years teaching Photoshop internationally. So I covered the entire United States except Hawaii, darn it. But it was San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Alaska many times. But all the major cities, and then I've been to Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And Canada. And so I did that for quite a few years, but during my downtime, I was actually doing wedding photography, family, shooting kids. And I stopped shooting weddings back in 2019, sort of perfect timing, just before what started. But the reason I quit doing weddings, and of course, you got to remember, I wasn't full-time doing weddings because there is a burnout. I mean, I've known people that were doing weddings full-time, and after 5 years, they just got burnt out and they just don't do it anymore. But they just shifted. They're doing more family stuff, high school seniors, shooting kids. It's not that they left out of photography, but they just changed the genre that they were involved with. I just was in my late 60s, and I love doing weddings, but it's just too physically demanding for me at this age. As of this recording in 2023, I'm in my early 70s. But when I quit doing weddings, I was in my late 60s, and it was the physical stuff, so nothing I could do on that. But let's get down to the underlying reason why a lot of people are quitting, and one I'm not really happy about, but you're in control of your destination, I guess. But I'm not going to mention names, but this is back maybe about I'd say 15 years ago. And there was, you start to know photographers in your area and stuff, and you sort of meet up with them, talk with them, whatever. And this one gal, terrific gal, and she got a camera like most of us, and she's all excited about photography. She had her husband actually take a spare bedroom, painted it all white, got the expensive drop curtains that go in the back and stuff. All automated and everything, and spent a lot of money to have an in-home studio put together. And unfortunately, about a year afterwards, she just flat out quit. She got disgusted with photography and quit. And here's what happened. When, and again, I'm learning photography at basically the same time and same rate she is. And I knew the photography style that she was doing and shooting a lot of kids and that. And I said, hey, so-and-so is coming in to do a workshop. And I'm not going to mention the name, but she was like really well known working with kids and stuff. And are you going to go to that workshop? No. Okay. And then if, a few months later, somebody else is coming in that sort of fit her genre of photography and also mine. And I'm always going to these training things all the time to build my skills. She would never go. So the point is, she never invested in herself for her photography business. And she was just trying to do it on her own. So what happened, because she didn't, and again, in my opinion, we all start out as picture takers with an expensive camera. That is it. That is it. We have to learn and we have to practice what we learn to get better at our craft. She did not. And what happened was, as soon as she got past her family and friends when it came to photography and shooting, she couldn't attract any clients at all. And it showed in the work. I hate to say that, but it's just like she got frustrated and gave up. So the moral of the story is, it's really important that you invest in yourself and practice what you learn to get better in your craft so you can attract those clients and stuff. Because yes, there's competition out there. There's no doubt about it. But if you don't stand out enough in your craft, you become almost like a dime a dozen. It could get very frustrating, and you end up quitting the business, whether it's full-time or part-time. And so one of my past videos, I talked about the 5 things that improve your photography, and most photographers get it wrong. And the number 1 was education. That's, between our ears. And I'm going through this fast, but I'll give you a reference in the show notes to that video. But number 2 is applying what you learn, and that is understanding composition in your camera, and you're learning the things from your education to start applying. And then the third thing was understanding lighting, and understanding lighting really well, whether it's natural light or you're complementing it with strobes or 100% strobes, but it's understanding that. Then number 4 is your lens choice that you're going to use, and then the least most important thing is camera. And most people get it wrong. They think it's the camera. And that's a whole other issue that I might expand on in a future video. But the point is, these people who end up quitting can't get past family, relatives, friends with their photography because they don't invest in themselves to get better at their craft. And, family wants to support and encourage them. But if their work's not that good, and can't compete with other photographers out there, you're just going to die in the business. So that's one area that why photographers end up quitting. They just don't invest in themselves and practice what they're learning at all. They just think they can do this on their own with an expensive camera and look really cool or whatever. The other one, and this is based on a true story, really gets me, but it has to do with social media. And if you're somebody who's just a hobbyist, you just love photography, you post your stuff out on social media, social media could be very, very mean, and it could affect your mental, state of mind. And I find a lot of people just quit because of that. They get frustrated. They don't like all the bad remarks and things. And I get them on when I post mine on social media, I ignore it. I could care less about getting likes and stuff. The only reason I post my stuff on social media is so people see what I'm doing and I'm still active in photography. I don't care whether they like my stuff or not. That's so totally irrelevant. But this is based on a true story that happened. There was a gal that showcased on social media her work, and she just gave an example that she does corporate headshots. and she just had an example up there. And it was a nice, clean headshot. But I stopped because all of a sudden there's this huge conversation of comments below the image. And I'm going, gee, what are they talking about? Well, one of the first comments somebody made was, well, I definitely would use a second light and put it behind that person so you have better separation between the background and the subject matter. Then somebody else chimes in. I totally disagree. I would have made it a hair light and put it up and come down. Somebody else, I disagree. It should be 3 lights set up. And they're all just arguing, these photographers, bashing the image, but they're all fighting amongst themselves as to what should have been the proper way of doing this. And I'm thinking, man, I almost jumped in, but I just decided I'm not going to jump into that conversation because it's like throwing gasoline into a fire. And it's like, man, I don't want any part of this. So what the proper thing to do was to contact that photography personally. And I asked her, I said, I've got 3 questions or 3 issues I want to discuss with you. Number one, because I saw the image and the conversation on social media about your image that you posted. Number one, did the client like the image? In other words, were they happy? And the answer was yes. Number 2, did they pay for your services? And the answer was yes. So I said, number 3, I said, don't listen to any of those comments in social media. Ignore it. I said, you just keep doing what you love to do and do it over and over and over again. And you will find over time, whether you like it or not, you're going to see things slightly different and maybe refine it. But if you're happy what you're doing, just keep doing what you love to do. Those people making the comments, they're not going to buy any images from you. They're not going to hire you to shoot. So just totally ignore that and do what you love to do. And that person said, oh my gosh, thank you. But she goes, but I wouldn't let that sidetrack me. And I go, good for you. But you need to know that those type of comments and stuff discourage a lot of other people, and then they end up just giving up. So you got to be strong-willed and just stick to your guns and don't worry about what other people say, think or do. You just focus on what you like to do. Which leads me to the last story, and that is I'm constantly pushing myself and learning and doing things. I will maybe make an announcement later this year on how I'm shifting and doing something a little bit different in photography than I'm doing right now. But some people know that I'm a huge fan of Joel Grimes, and I've been coached by Joel Grimes and worked with him many times at live venues and assisted him. Actually shot at his home studio for a couple days when him and his wife Amy lived in Buckeye, Arizona. And just a great guy, just learned a lot. And I learned a lot about compositing from him. And so I was very active in a private group, and I kept posting images here and there as I did different projects and composites. And then somebody made a comment on one of my images, and they said, oh my gosh, if I didn't know it was you, I would have thought that that was a Joel Grimes image. Now, I know that person meant well as a compliment. To me, it was a rude awakening and a big slap in the face. And I took it a different way. And not to discount what the person had said. I mean, I know that person meant it as a compliment. But I'm thinking, whoa, there's only one Joel Grimes, and it's not me. Why am I so obsessed with just making my images look exactly like his with the techniques he showed me, when I should be putting my own personality into it and putting a little twist? And that was my rude awakening. It's like, stop this nonsense of trying to just duplicate exactly what he does to make it look like that's a Joel Grimes image and nobody would know the difference. That was ridiculous. And I got off on a bad, sort of a tangent there. And so now I pulled back a bit. I understand certain concepts that he taught me, but I put in my own personal flavor. And I think that's what's really important. So a lesson learned by me, on that one, when somebody tried to make a compliment, but I took it a different way. So anyhow, those are some of the reasons why we find that people are leaving. And one is social media affects people that might be part-time in the business or just a hobbyist. I mean, geez, if you love photography, why would you care what somebody says? Do what you love to do and ignore them, or just don't post on social media, but just do what you love to do. and print a, get to your favorite images and print a book. I mean, I talk about blurb.com. I have no affiliation with Blurb, but I love using them as a service to accumulate some of my favorite images I've done in the past, put it in the book. It meets a certain theme or whatever, but it's just a great reminder of your work, and you can have that on a coffee table and stuff. So anyhow, with that said, hopefully you're not, on the fence about thinking of quitting. Just stay with photography. If it's something you love, you want to push yourself and just enjoy the craft. Yes, make mistakes. I always say this at the end, push yourself, get that camera out, go make mistakes, because that's how you learn. But I highly recommend that you guys invest in yourself in any type of, whether it's on YouTube, which you'll find free stuff, but then you'll find courses you could sign up for that give you a more structured look, or live classes to go to. That's where things tend to gel for you, and put those things into practice, because a big deal if you go to a workshop or learn something online and you go, man, I really learned a lot, but if you don't go out and practice and make it part of you, it's all for nothing. It's all for nothing. So anyhow, hopefully you learned something. My email should be displayed if you have any questions or comments. I prefer emails rather than making comments on YouTube, because I just don't get time to scan through there. But if you hit me with the email, those I get my emails every day. So I've got a little back order of emails I'm going to respond to in some future videos. So with that out of the way, my routine, and that is get that camera out, literally think out of the box. Until next time, see ya.